The air in Washington, D.C. was thick with tension on that crisp January morning in 2025. The Capitol building loomed like a fortress of history, its marble corridors buzzing with the electric hum of anticipation. Inside the Senate Judiciary Committee chamber, the lights blazed down on a scene that could have been ripped from a Hollywood script. Pam Bondi, Donald Trump's fiery pick for Attorney General, sat poised at the witness table, her steely gaze fixed ahead. Across from her, Senator Adam Schiff, the California Democrat with a reputation for sharp-witted interrogations, adjusted his glasses and leaned into the microphone. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Bondi's confirmation hearing was more than a formality. It was a battleground where the future of Trump's second term would be forged. For weeks, the media had hyped this showdown. Cable news pundits dissected every angle. Bondi, the former Florida AG with a prosecutor's grit and a loyalty to Trump that ran deeper than the Everglades, versus Schiff, the cerebral ex-prosecutor turned political pitbull who'd made his name taking on Trump during the impeachment trials. The narrative was simple. Schiff would try to paint Bondi as a pawn, a yes-woman who'd bend the Justice Department to Trump's whims. Bondi, they said, would dodge and weave, clinging to vague promises of impartiality. But no one, not Schiff, not the talking heads, not even the Trump loyalists in the gallery, saw what was coming. It started innocently enough. Schiff, with his measured tone, opened with a question designed to trap her. "Ms. Bondi," he began, his voice smooth as polished granite. "Can you assure this committee that you'll tell the president hard truths? Let's start with an easy one. Can you tell Donald Trump he lost the 2020 election?" The room hushed. It was a classic Schiff move. Force her to either defy Trump or admit she couldn't. A gotcha moment, pure and simple. Bondi didn't flinch. She leaned forward, her Florida drawl cutting through the silence like a blade. "Senator, I'm not here to play your games. What I can tell you is I'll never let politics dictate justice. You're fishing for a soundbite, but I'm focused on keeping America safe." Schiff smirked, pressing harder. "So you can't say it? You can't tell the president he lost?" The gallery stirred, sensing blood in the water. But then, something shifted. Bondi's eyes narrowed, and a slow, confident smile crept across her face. "You want to talk about truth, Senator? Let's talk about California. Your state's drowning in crime. Robberies up 87% over the national average. Streets where folks can't walk without looking over their shoulder. You want to grill me on hypotheticals while your own backyard's burning." The room erupted. Schiff's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of shock. She wasn't just deflecting. She was hitting back, and hard. The senators on both sides froze, caught off guard by the pivot. Bondi didn't stop. "See, I'm not here to rewrite history books or stroke egos. I'm here to fix what's broken. 2/3 of Americans don't trust the DOJ anymore, and I'm betting a lot of them live in your district, Senator. So maybe instead of playing gotcha, you ought to ask me how I'm going to make their streets safe again." The Trump supporters in the back roared, waving mini flags like it was a rally. Schiff, for the first time in years, looked like he'd been caught flat-footed. And that was just the beginning. Bondi had flipped the script, and the real fireworks were yet to come. The Senate Judiciary Committee chamber felt like a pressure cooker after Pam Bondi's opening salvo. The murmurs from the gallery hadn't even settled when Adam Schiff regained his composure, his jaw tightening as he flipped through his notes. He wasn't about to let Bondi, a Trump loyalist with a prosecutor's swagger, turn his carefully laid trap into a stump speech. Schiff adjusted his tie, a subtle tell of his irritation, and leaned back into the mic. "Ms. Bondi," he said, his tone icy, "this isn't a campaign rally. You're here to answer questions, not deflect with statistics about my state. Let's try again. Will you uphold the rule of law even if it means defying the president who appointed you?" The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Schiff knew it was a tightrope, force her to pledge blind loyalty to Trump, and she'd alienate moderates, make her waver, and she'd lose the MAGA base. Either way, he'd score points. The cameras zoomed in, catching every twitch of Bondi's expression. For a split second, it looked like she might take the bait. Then she laughed. Not a nervous chuckle, but a full-throated courtroom veteran laugh that echoed off the chamber walls. "Senator, you're good at this, I'll give you that. But I've prosecuted tougher cases than your word games. The rule of law? It's not some abstract debate club topic for me. I spent 20 years putting murderers and drug lords behind bars while you were drafting press releases. So yeah, I'll uphold it against anyone, anywhere, anytime. The room exploded again. Republican senators smirked, Democrats shifted uncomfortably. Schiff's eyes narrowed. He hadn't expected her to turn his gravitas into a punchline. But Bondi wasn't done. She reached under the table and pulled out a thick binder, slamming it down with a thud that made the mic squeal. Since you brought up California, let's talk facts. This is a DOJ report, public record, Senator, detailing how your state's soft-on-crime policies have fueled a 40% spike in organized retail theft since 2020. You want to talk law? How about explaining to your voters why they're dodging smash-and-grabs just to buy groceries? Schiff's face reddened. He tried to interrupt, that's not relevant to your qualifications, Ms. Bondi, but she steamrolled him. Oh, it's relevant, Senator. You're asking if I'll enforce the law? I'm showing you what happens when you don't. And if you think I'm gonna sit here and let you lecture me while your constituents suffer, you've got another thing coming. The gallery cheered louder, a few Trump hats popping up like mushrooms after rain. Schiff banged his gavel, a rare loss of cool for the usually unflappable senator. Order. Ms. Bondi, you will answer my question directly. But the damage was done. The optics were a disaster. Schiff looked like a schoolmarm scolding a defiant student, while Bondi played the no-nonsense sheriff calling out a hypocritical elite. Social media lit up instantly. Hashtag Bondi flips. The script trended within minutes, with clips of her binder slam racking up millions of views. Back in the chamber, Bondi leaned back, folding her arms. You want a direct answer, Senator? Here it is. I'll serve the Constitution, not any one man. But I'm not here to play therapist to your election obsession. I'm here to fix a broken system. Next question. Schiff stared, momentarily speechless, as the committee chair called a recess. The crowd buzzed, sensing a shift. Bondi had turned Schiff's ambush into her stage, and the real twist was still brewing. The recess in the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing lasted exactly 15 minutes, but it might as well have been an eternity. Outside the chamber, aides scrambled, phones buzzed, and reporters jostled for position, shouting questions at anyone who'd listen. Inside, Pam Bondi sipped water from a glass, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos she'd unleashed. Adam Schiff, meanwhile, huddled with his staff in a corner, his face a mask of determination. He'd underestimated Bondi once, he wouldn't do it again. The hearing was turning into a referendum not just on her nomination, but on the soul of American justice, and Schiff knew he had to regain control. When the gavel fell to resume, Schiff came out swinging. Ms. Bondi, he said, his voice dripping with calculated menace, let's pivot to something concrete. During your tenure as Florida AG, you were accused of dropping a fraud investigation into Trump University after a $25,000 donation to your campaign. Care to explain how that squares with your rule of law sermon? It was a haymaker, a scandal from years past dredged up to paint her as corrupt, a Trump crony unfit for the DOJ. The Democrats on the committee leaned forward, eager for blood. Bondi didn't blink. She opened her binder again, flipping to a tabbed page with the precision of a surgeon. Senator, I was waiting for that one. Here's the truth, public record again. That case was reviewed by my office in 2013. We found insufficient evidence to proceed, and the decision was made before any donation. The timeline's right here, filed with the State Ethics Board. You want to talk fraud? Let's talk about the millions in taxpayer money your committee spent chasing Russian ghosts while crime spiked in your backyard. The gallery gasped. Schiff's accusation had backfired. Bondi wasn't just defending herself, she was flipping the narrative again, tying his obsession with Trump to neglect of his own state. But then came the bombshell. Bondi slid a second document across the table, her voice dropping to a low, deliberate cadence. And since we're on the subject of ethics, Senator, I've got something for you. This is a memo declassified last week by the DOJ detailing a 2019 meeting where you pressured a federal prosecutor to prioritize a case against a Trump associate. No evidence, just politics. Sound familiar? The chamber went dead silent. Schiff's eyes widened, a rare crack in his armor. The memo was real, part of a quiet Trump administration push to unearth old skeletons, and Bondi had just dropped it like a grenade. You want to grill me on integrity? She continued. How about explaining why you thought the DOJ was your personal attack dog? The Trump supporters erupted, chanting, "Lock him up," as the chair struggled to restore order. Schiff stammered, That's a misrepresentation, Ms. Bondi. This is irrelevant. But the damage was done. The memo's existence wasn't news to insiders, but Bondi had weaponized it, turning Schiff's moral high ground into quicksand. Reporters scribbled furiously, knowing this clip would dominate the news cycle. On X, hashtag Schiff exposed surged past hashtag Bondi flips the script, with memes of Bondi as a cowboy gunslinger flooding the platform. As the hearing paused again, Bondi sat back, her expression unreadable. Schiff glared across the table, realizing he'd walked into a trap he couldn't escape. The script wasn't just flipped, it was rewritten, and the next act promised even more fireworks. The Senate Judiciary Committee chamber crackled with tension as the hearing resumed after its second recess. The air was heavy, the stakes palpable. Pam Bondi's confirmation had morphed into a proxy war for the soul of the nation. Adam Schiff, his composure fraying, clutched his notes like a lifeline, determined to claw back control. Across the table, Bondi sat like a lioness, her binder of secrets still open, her confidence unshaken. The gallery, a mix of Trump diehards and Beltway insiders, held its breath. What happened next would be dissected for years. Schiff tried a new tack, his voice steady but strained. Ms. Bondi, you've thrown around accusations and dodged accountability. Let's cut to it. If confirmed, will you weaponize the DOJ against the president's enemies, like this memo you've so conveniently waved around? It was a desperate pivot. Paint her as the partisan thug he'd failed to prove she was. The Democrats nodded approvingly, sensing a lifeline. Bondi didn't hesitate. Senator, I'm not here to settle scores. I'm here to enforce the law. That memo? It's not a weapon. It's a mirror. You want to talk enemies? How about the cartels flooding our borders, the gangs terrorizing our cities? That's who I'm after, not your political boogeymen. She paused, then delivered the gut punch. But if you're worried about the DOJ digging into old dirt, maybe you should have thought twice before leaving so much of it behind. The room roared again, but this time, an unexpected voice cut through. Senator Mike Rollins, a grizzled Republican from Texas with a maverick streak, leaned into his mic. Ms. Bondi, I've got a question. You're tough, I'll give you that. But can you work with both sides? 'Cause I'm tired of this circus tearing us apart. It was a curveball. Rollins wasn't a Trump cheerleader, and his support wasn't guaranteed. The chamber hushed, sensing a pivot. Bondi turned to him, her tone softening but firm. Senator, I prosecuted cases in Florida with Democrats, Republicans, independents, didn't matter. What mattered was justice. I'll run the DOJ the same way, doors open, results first. You want to fix this mess? I'm your partner. Rollins nodded slowly, a faint grin breaking through his weathered face. Fair enough. I'm listening. Schiff seized the moment, sensing weakness. So you'll play nice with us, Ms. Bondi? Then why drag out that memo? Sounds like a threat to me. But before Bondi could respond, another voice chimed in, Senator Maria Delgado, a moderate Democrat from Arizona. Hold on, Adam, she said, her accent sharp. I've read that memo. It's not a threat. It's a question. And I'd like to know why you never disclosed that meeting to us. The gallery gasped. Delgado wasn't a Trump ally. She'd voted to convict him in 2021, but her defection stunned Schiff into silence. Bondi seized the opening. Senator Delgado, I appreciate that. This isn't about threats, it's about trust. Americans deserve a DOJ they can believe in, not a political ping-pong ball. I'll work with anyone who's serious about that. Delgado nodded, her expression unreadable but resolute. Schiff's coalition was cracking, and Bondi's coalition was growing, right before the cameras. As the session broke for lunch, the narrative shifted. Bondi wasn't just flipping the script on Schiff. She was rewriting the rules, pulling allies from unlikely corners. Outside, Trump tweeted, Pam's a fighter, Schiff's done. The MAGA crowd cheered, but the real test loomed. The final vote. The final hours of the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings stretched into the late afternoon, the golden light of a Washington sunset filtering through the chamber's high windows. The air buzzed with exhaustion and electricity. Pam Bondi's nomination had become a spectacle, a referendum on Trump's legacy and the nation's future. Adam Schiff sat rigid, his notes crumpled, his strategy in tatters. Across from him, Bondi remained unshakable, her binder closed now, her mission clear. The committee was deadlocked, the gallery restless, and the country watching. It all came down to this. Schiff made his last stand. Ms. Bondi, he said, his voice hoarse but resolute, you've dodged, deflected, and attacked. But the American people need to know, are you here for them, or for Donald Trump? It was his final play, frame her as a puppet, force her to choose between loyalty and credibility. The Democrats leaned in, hoping for a stumble. The Republicans held their breath, praying for a knockout. Bondi met his gaze, unflinching. Senator, I'm here for the same people I fought for in Florida, moms who want safe streets, dads who want jobs, kids who deserve a future. Not a president, not a party, just Americans. You've spent this whole hearing trying to trip me up, but I'm not playing your game. I'm here to fix what you and your pals broke, a justice system that's lost its way. So ask yourself, who are you here for? The chamber fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Schiff opened his mouth, then closed it, out of moves. The chair called for closing statements, but the tide had turned. Senator Rollins spoke first, his Texas drawl cutting through. I've seen enough. She's tough, she's fair, I'm a yes. Senator Delgado followed, her voice steady. I've got questions about Trump, but I trust her to put law first. Yes. One by one, the votes rolled in, Republicans unified, moderates swayed. Schiff's block held firm, but it wasn't enough. The tally, 12-9. Bondi was through. The gallery erupted, cheers from the Trump faithful, groans from the opposition. Outside, horns blared as MAGA supporters waved flags in the streets. Schiff stormed out, muttering about partisan hacks, but Bondi stayed, shaking hands with Rollins and Delgado, a quiet nod of respect passing between them. The cameras caught it all, her victory lap, understated but undeniable. On X, #BondiWins topped the charts, with a viral clip of her final answer racking up 20 million views by nightfall. Later, in a small office off the chamber, Bondi stood alone, staring out at the Capitol dome. An aide slipped in, handing her a phone. It's him, he said. She took it, hearing Trump's familiar bark. Pam, you crushed it. Schiff's toast, greatest AG ever. She smiled faintly. Thanks, Mr. President. But the real work starts now. She hung up, her mind already on the battles ahead, cartels, corruption, a DOJ to rebuild. That night, across America, families watched the highlights. In Ohio, a steelworker toasted her grit. In California, a shop owner cursed Schiff's defeat. The script wasn't just flipped, it was torched, replaced with a new story. A fighter from Florida, unafraid to take on the elite, confirmed to lead justice into a new era. Whether it lasted would depend on Bondi herself, but for now, the day was hers and America's.